Hi, I'm Stacy.
And I am Mark, and this is the Gurus and Game Changers podcast. Welcome, Gurus. Welcome, Game Changers. A few years ago, our guest, Beth Warford, found herself in a terrifying situation. She was out and about with her two young daughters when she was stalked and ultimately confronted by a would-be attacker. And in that moment, she had this terrible realization that she wasn't prepared. She was defenseless. She didn't have the competence, she didn't have the confidence or anything to protect herself, let alone her own kids. And honestly, if we imagine ourselves in that situation, I would say 90% of us
That's so scary.
would feel exactly the same way.
Scary.
You're kind of at the mercy of a criminal, and that's not where you want to be. No. So that was a game-changing moment for her, and she vowed in that moment, never again. I'm going to train myself, and I'm going to train others, help others avoid being in that situation. So she created a company called prettyloaded.org. And the training, she's personally trained thousands of people face-to-face, and the company's trained millions of people around the world on the areas of personal safety, personal protection, and most importantly, how to avoid being targeted, how to avoid being a victim, something that's often overlooked. So our training is used all over the world by law enforcement agencies, the U.S. court system, real estate companies, hospitals, universities, you name it. Her client list is amazing. It's a big one. So today we're going to talk about your safety, and not just yours, your kids, your teens, college kids living away, and your parents. And you can literally be a game changer to them if you're going to share these incredible insights that we're going to get from one of the most respected, experienced voices in the field of personal safety, Beth Warford. Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you
for joining us.
Thank you so much for coming in today. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you, Mark and Stacy, for having me.
That's great.
It's great.
So just real quick, I want to ask you, why Pretty Loaded? I love, as a marketer, I love the idea of how companies get named. I would love to know where you came up with that.
So I came up with Pretty Loaded because loaded means equipped with an abundance of options and staffed with excellent players. So after taking the training, you will be an excellent safety resource for your loved ones. And I thought when I first started the company that I would be primarily training women, but it's half and half men, half women.
How about it?
That's
right.
Awesome. That's great.
Also, I kind of have a sense of humor. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Pretty loaded.
Right.
Do you want to talk about that day that you were attacked? I know it's a story that you tell, and I would love to hear it directly from you. So tell us that, then I have a follow-up question.
Right. So I was at a hockey game, and I was sitting with my two daughters, and I went out to the concession stand, and I just felt like somebody was following me. And I turned and looked, and this guy was just right behind me, just shaking. And I literally just went back into the game. I told my sister about it, and she said that he was staring at me in the stands. That same guy was up in the stands, staring at me the whole game. And so I thought it was safe because, it was 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, surrounded by people. At the end of the game, we were waiting out by the locker rooms, and there weren't very many people around, just the mothers. And again, he came up and very close to me and was shaking and just staring me down. And I literally froze in that moment. It's embarrassing. I froze. I put my head down. I held my daughter's hands. They were crying. My brother came back into the game to tell me something. And because he came up to me and talked to me, the would-be predator took off. But it absolutely changed my life. I have never been put in a situation like that before.
I mean, so you just knew, so that feeling that you get, that everybody says,
your intuition.
Trust your intuition, trust your gut. I mean, that is pretty odd. I mean, he's standing there shaking and staring at you, But then I noticed that you said when you talk about the story that you failed. You felt like you failed. You felt like you failed your girls. You felt like you failed yourself. I mean, for those people out there that have been victims of these types of crimes, I think that's a super normal response, don't you think? I know it's not the ideal response, but I mean, I don't want people to feel like, oh, I've failed as a result of not, kicking the hell out of the dude. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure what you could have done in that situation any differently.
Right. So the reason he was probably targeting me is because I had little or no eye contact. I diverted my eyes. That's one of the weakest things that you can do. And so when you talk about most people failing, 80% of people who take self-defense training have been assaulted or robbed from. And most of the time, if they don't have this mindset, they do freeze. And so that is the absolute wrong thing to do. And my whole life, I've been very afraid, and I don't want to go back into my childhood necessarily, but I've been afraid my whole life. And so I have been targeted multiple times because I have
Wow.
little or no eye contact, and I had a very fearful energy.
Wow, I have totally heard that too. Like, so my thing is, people have always told me, if you're nervous, like if you're leaving a mall and you're like, walking out and you have your packages and it's dark and you're going into the parking lot and someone walks towards you, you should look at them right in the eye and say hi. And then they'll know that you're not someone who can be victimized. Is that true? Is that one of the things that you talk about?
Basically strong eye contact, so if somebody's getting close to you, try to create space from them. If you're really getting a feeling that they're following you, I would go back into the mall and have somebody escort you out.
Okay.
But also it depends who's in the parking lot, but give them the look that says, I see you, not me, not today. It's a strong look. And
Yes.
and actually criminals have admitted, even Ted Bundy has admitted, that he would not attack a woman that had a strong eye contact because it means they're a fighter. Criminals want to go after the weakest and easiest target.
Just like any other predator, right?
Right
Going
there.
after
That
the
is
prey.
Exactly.
That is
Yeah.
incredible advice that I
Yeah.
know people can use like right now. Like
Yeah.
look them in the eye and
Look
say
'em in
it,
the
say
eye.
it
Yep.
again. Not here. Not what did you say?
Not me, not today. Basically,
Right.
I know
That's
I know
what's in
who
your
you
head.
are.
Not
Yeah,
today.
That's what's
And
in
then-
that's in your head.
Turn around, go right back in the mall. Don't try to fight the person if you have not had training.
So
Right.
you did a deep dive into predators when you started your company, and I've seen some of those interviews as well, and they're fascinating about the nonverbal, the body language that you give off as a potential victim. I've seen interviews with repeat offenders that lay out, here's what I look for. Discuss some of that because I find that fascinating.
Right.
Because people
Well,
don't
like,
realize what they're giving off in their body.
Yeah.
right. 90% of all communication is body language, right? And I can talk about pre-attack body indicators later, but Grayson
Yeah.
and Stein did a study in 1984, and they checked thousands of criminals, and they showed a video of people walking, and they said, okay, who would you target? And in less than 7 seconds, all the criminals targeted the same people. It was not just men or women or on race or anything. It was all on their body language. Little or no eye contact, slow walkers, people who had an unusual gait, people who were distracted. In today's world, to be looking at their phone. So we're just like animals, right? Who does the lion go after in the herd? They go after the weakest animal. They just want to,
Sure.
rob that person or do something and get away.
Wow. And then there's different
Targets.
kinds of predators too, right? And I'm not sure if you want to go into all these right now, but like you said, there's the power predator, there's the persuasion predator, and the opportunistic predator. So
Yeah.
not only do you have to watch the way you walk as a potential victim, but also the predators, you can kind of just see which is which based on how? Like how do you know that if you have a power predator or a persuasion predator or an opportunistic predator?
It all depends. A power predator is just going to just do the crime. They're
Right.
angry at somebody and they're stalking somebody and they're just going to go after them, whether they're just going to get that person. A persuasion predator is usually somebody, who's trying to be charming, trying to get you to
Ted Bundy.
Oh,
there you go.
just gives you
Yes.
the heebie-jeebies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
They use things like typecasting and loan sharking and all these different things that they say to you to trick you to do, to put them on their team and to get them to trust them, right? Opportunistic predators are, I think, some of the most scary predators because research has showed that 10 to 20% of the American population has admitted to being an opportunistic predator if they can get away with the crime. So my thing
Define
is,
what that means, the opportunistic predator.
okay, an opportunistic predator will go after somebody that is looking at their phone, distracted.
Got it.
They might steal from that person. They have even admitted to raping people if they can get away with it.
Wow.
So
And that-
20%.
Up to 20%. And so when people ask me, what is the chance that something might happen to me? What are the stats? I'm not big into stats because if it happens, it was 100% chance, right?
Yeah.
And that's too much.
yeah.
But
Sure.
what is the chance that you might cross the path of an opportunistic predator at some point in your lifetime? It's probable. I
Wow.
have many times. I mean, how many people have had close calls? And whether you're paying attention or not, whether your intuition goes off, all those things save you. So
And I
that's why you need this training. It's a basic life skill.
So what type of predators are the predators that you know that might potentially be in your family? Are they the power, the persuasion, or the opportunistic?
I would say persuasion in your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually Persuasion, well, it depends. There's all sorts of things like spousal abuse. I would say that's more of a power predator, but I really don't do that type of training. Opportunistic predators are usually just out there on the street. If they see something, they can steal somebody's laptop or get away with something. That's the time they're going to do that.
I don't want any predators in my world.
No, certainly not in your family.
I don't want any predators. Can they all just go away? It feels so unsafe right now in this world.
Let me ask you a question. So you're out. You have good situational awareness, say, which actually define situational awareness.
Yeah, that's
for
a
those
good
who
idea. Yeah.
aren't aware of that term.
Yeah, actually, situational awareness was developed for the Marines in World War II. And the person who developed it said it's more important than using handguns or any type of martial arts. It focuses on conflict avoidance. So it's all about paying attention to your surroundings, looking for anything that seems out of place, right? Because if you see those things out of place, there's a time frame for an encounter. And if you're paying attention, you have 1 to 3 minutes. I like to say transition to Nike, put on your running shoes, get out of there. Go into a store, cross the street. There's so many things that you can do when you know criminals and how they operate. So most criminals are on the street, right? They're loitering, and they're criminals because they're not looking at their phone. Why are they not looking at their phone? They're looking for their next victim. So when you go on the street, let's be honest, Mark and Stacey, when is the last time you had time to loiter and hang out on the street?
That's a really valid point.
Right.
Although I do know people that just stand there on the street and just chill, but still, it's something to be worried about, maybe.
Criminals.
Eric.
Yeah.
Eric does it.
Yeah. So it's all about paying attention. Is a van driving too close to the sidewalk? Situational awareness. Did you know the lack of situational awareness is the number 4 cause of death in America?
Oh my gosh.
It used to be number 3, but COVID moved in. So not paying attention kills a lot of people. Yeah. It's texting while you're driving. You look away for 5 seconds and you just went the whole length of a football field. Right. It's falling off a ladder because you're not paying attention. It's paying attention is a good thing. You can also use it to help people. An old man that falls down in a parking lot. Now you're helping him up. Somebody who can't open a door because she's got a baby in her arms and a carrier. You're helping them with the door. It's just about being present in daily life.
That's a valid point. It's not just about spotting the potential negative. It's also spotting the potential positive.
Yeah, that was good.
So if I have good situational awareness, let's say I'm at a convenience store or at a gas station, and I see somebody coming my way, right? What clues might I have? Because they're just coming toward me. They could be walking past me, but what clues can I ascertain from them that they might be an attacker?
So
Right.
Pre-attack body indicators. The first thing is staring. If a stranger is staring at you for 3 seconds or longer, that is ominous. So staring you down, right? Because they have to stare at their intended target. And then also clenching their jaw, unclenching their jaws. You can tell by the hands. You can tell by where they're staring. Are they staring at you directly, or are they staring, maybe at Stacey's purse? Because they stare at their intended target. You will get a feeling. You will get a feeling that something is not quite right. You will be able to tell just by their body language. Sometimes they're fidgeting. Sometimes they'll stare you down and then look away and stare back at you and go towards you. So what I say in those situations, if somebody is staring you down, create space from that person.
Okay. Okay, just sort of move away from that person. What are the other things? Yeah.
Move away from that person. The other thing is, hey, your hand out. Hey, back up. Do you need something? Just kind of like, it depends, like if you're on the street or if you're in a convenience store. But most of the time, I would say they're probably not going to do something to you in a convenience store. It's when you're out walking back now to your car. Right. So putting your hand up, this is a universal sign for stop. Give me some space, right? Back up. Can I help you? Just kind of that kind of thing. Blade your body. You don't want to stand square-footed up to them. You want to blade your body. And this is one of 2 things. You can either run quicker or you can kick that person. Also, it shows that you've had some training, and we like to say move off the X, move to the left or the right. Because if they would just run at you and push you or do something like that, it takes away 60% of the blow. But it also throws people because they're like, oh man, this person has had training. Now you're blading your body and you're moving to the left and you have your hand up. You also have your hand up because Once you learn how to fight, like if they're going to punch you, you can block with your forearms. Your forearms are incredibly strong. Your hands are already here and you can block.
Huh. So like the social mores of that, like if you're in a convenience store and someone walks up to you and all of a sudden you put your hand up and say, what do you need from me or whatever, I think a lot of people might be embarrassed to do that only because like it's just not something normal, and maybe you feel paranoid, like, am I really seeing this? Like, what's really happening? Or am I just that hot that someone's staring at me right now? Like, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's people who think that, right? So like, what do you tell these people?
I wouldn't do that unless you really felt like they were targeting you.
Okay.
Like you had a feeling inside like they are going to hurt me. You can visibly see them shaking, right?
Wow.
You can see them clenching their jaw. But I would just create space from that person. If they are now following you all over the convenience store, I would go get the largest hot cup of coffee I could find. Right? Improvised weapons are all around as well. But
Ooh,
go up to somebody and just say, "This guy is really creeping me out." Talk to somebody. Go to another person.
What are some other improvised weapons?
Oh gosh!
Try this at home, kids.
improvised weapons are all around us. A comb is actually incredibly a really good one.
Wow.
To take in your back pocket or for bullies or anything. If you swipe a comb across somebody's face really hard, or their neck or their arm, it hurts enough just to let go of you. But there's improvised weapons everywhere. A chair, all sorts of things.
So you don't necessarily
and your phone,
but you don't necessarily need to bring mace with you places, or bring like a gun, or bring like an actual weapon, or is that something that you think we should do as well?
It depends. So I primarily train right now a lot of people that are going back to work, hybrid workers. They're going back to work 3 times a week. And let me just tell you that Seattle is a bit of a nightmare.
Amen.
LA, Manhattan, Chicago. So if you're in areas where it's dangerous, right? I'm training also pharmaceutical reps that are going to hospitals, and as we know that these hospitals are in very dangerous situations. But now they're walking in situations where there are tons of homeless people and campers, and those people aren't bad people. The people on drugs, the people who are getting fentanyl for $1,
right?
They are off. They're doing violent things. The stories I hear of what is happening, how people are getting assaulted, they're just trying to get to work. They need to have something on them. Wow. They need to have pepper gel on them. I recommend Saber Red pepper gel, not pepper spray, because the law enforcement themselves trust their lives to that brand. Don't go out there and just buy any pepper spray or pepper gel from Walmart, or those things don't work. We've tested them all. Flashlights are incredibly useful, especially now when it's dark in the morning when you're going to work and dark at night. If you can try to change your hours, do that. But tactical flashlights can temporarily blind people in the daylight and day night, or at nighttime.
Daytime.
So
if daytime and nighttime.
Daytime, yeah. So if somebody makes you nervous, shine the light in their eyes. It completely scrambles their eyes. They can't see for a while. It gives you time to run. Gives you time to get away.
Wow. And you said this too, Mark, like your phone. Like, should we be recording these people?
I meant using it as a weapon.
Oh, using it as a weapon.
I've seen other videos where they're like, anything in your hand is a weapon. It could be a Red Bull, it could be a phone, it could be a pen. Use whatever. To your point, it could be a comb. I had never even thought of that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But that will hurt if you hit somebody with your phone. That's a brick.
I've seen people like record, like, and then, that's so smart. Like they're recording these people and they're like, oh, I better run because now they have, actual video of me. Yeah.
Right. So I don't necessarily recommend that. So I recommend carrying a backpack. Don't carry a purse. If you're carrying a purse, you're probably going to be robbed. Don't be a high profile target. You want to be a gray man, gray woman, and you want to blend into your surroundings. You want to have shoes on that you can run in. I recommend carrying your valuables in a pouch that goes right under your clothing. And I recommend putting your phone in there. Most people don't realize that when they are stressed out, their fine and gross motor skills just deteriorate. So it's very hard to even dial 911. And by the time that call goes through, that's like 15 seconds. By the time the operator is on the line, where are you? Where are you? Even safety apps. I'm only a fan of certain safety apps. So people are stealing phones as well in large cities. So I say put that phone under your in your pouch as well. Run, get to a safe area. When you're in a safe locked area, then call the police, because you're not going to have time to be running on your phone anyway. Right. And predators don't care. They don't care that you've just called the cops. They have nothing to lose.
It's true.
Because they're going to be gone by
They
then.
still got
right?
10
Yeah.
seconds to
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the effectiveness of a personal alarm? They could pull it and the high decibel, 125 decibel alarms go off.
What's that?
Not a fan. I'm not a fan.
I've never heard of that.
It's a personal device you would carry on you that if somebody comes to attack you or confront you, you pull them. It's like pulling a pin, and it sends off like 125 decibel alarm.
I'm not a fan of those because criminals really don't care. Most encounters are over 9 seconds, and the police are 10 to 15 minutes away. Most people have bystander, bias. They assume that if somebody's in trouble, that somebody else is going to go help you. And most of the time, people don't come to your rescue. Very, very few times, unless they're trained to do that.
So aside from mace, is there anything else you recommend? Just overall, it's a good idea to, well, a flashlight. Anything else that's a good idea to kind of just carry every day?
I really like the tactical flashlight, like I said, and then the Saber Red Pepper Gel. There is a pen that you can use, to write, but you can also strike people with this pen. I believe in carrying a gun, if you have a concealed carry permit and you've had a lot of training. Guns are not for everyone. I don't teach guns at all in my training, but I do believe in the Second Amendment. I'm not a knife fan. There is a knife that can go around your neck and you can pull out the knife. I'm terrified of knives. I would rather have somebody come at me with a gun than a knife. People that carry knives are very, very violent criminals. I would recommend taking some form of martial art like Krav Maga and knowing how to use your body to physically hit somebody in the weak areas, right? Can you palm strike somebody just enough to get away? Can you hit them in the solar plexus? And we teach that as well because it's very empowering. Sometimes you're so nervous that you don't have time. You're shaking so much that you can't even get your pepper gel out. Hopefully it's not in the bottom of your purse, but you need to know how to fight too with your hands and your legs.
My daughter right now is working at the mall. She leaves at late hours. She's closing the mall. She's walking out into the parking lot. So if she came to you and said, like, I want to be trained by Pretty Loaded, how does it work?
Currently, we're just training corporations, but we do some of our affiliates are training like a group of 20, moms and daughters. So they'll do that as well. But I have online training. Okay. If she watches the videos, it'll absolutely change her mindset from ever looking down at her phone in public and walking out to her car again. There's just little tips in there that we give that can change everything. Even safe driving techniques. Where do most car crashes happen? If people know this, then they pay attention more when they're going through an intersection or when they're in the parking lot and now they back up, right?
So for corporation trainings, how does that work? So do you just get into when you're in person, right? So the rest is online, but how do you get into a big room and you start to train them on those things we just spoke about? Like how does that happen?
Yeah, so I do a lot of webinars and then some live training, but I've developed a whole PowerPoint and I've made it fun. So we have the audience laughing. We start out with the power pose because 90% of all communication is your body language. And can you change your body language to change the way you feel? You can. Have you heard of the power pose?
No, tell me about the power pose. I think I know what it is, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, so it's your arms above your head.
It's like the thing you're supposed to do when a bear attacks you.
Really?
You're supposed to make yourself bigger.
It depends on the bear, doesn't it?
No, I think you're supposed to be like, most people run from bears, but I thought you're supposed to like put your arms up and like make yourself look big and make a lot of noise, right? So the same.
I'm not
sure I want to hike with you.
Yeah. So it's, or you can put your arms on your hips like Superwoman, Superman, right? And you hold this pose for 2 minutes. But Amy Cuddy was a social psychologist at Harvard, and she studied all these kids. And she took saliva samples before and after doing the power pose. And after doing the power pose, the testosterone went through the roof and cortisol, stress hormones, went way down. So I started doing this. I was terrified of public speaking. I almost didn't start Pretty Loaded because of my fear of public speaking. So I would do the power pose and like a shot of tequila sometimes before I train people because I was so afraid.
Yeah, we have tequila in here too
That's funny.
I haven't gotten Mark to try it yet, but that's awesome. So you'll start with the power pose and then you go through what? Is there steps? Is there methods? Like how does it work?
Anytime you're trying to change somebody, you have to go through psychology, right? The psychology of why do you need self-defense training, right? And so Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's tiers, and the bottom is food and water and shelter. Then the second is safety and security. Then you keep going up, love and belonging. The very top is self-actualization. They claim that less than 5% of people make it to the top, which is helping other people in the world. I can say that my fear my whole life held me back as a person. I was constantly afraid when I was out in public, always afraid of just random things. But so the point that, most people don't get to their best self until they get over it. So if they feel afraid going to and from work, they're probably holding themselves back from something in life. And Yogananda, the father of yoga, said that out of all the soul qualities, the number one for a successful life is fearlessness.
I love that.
So we kind of go through that. Then I expose criminals. Exactly who these criminals are. People are shocked because they're not always a thug on the street. They might be an attractive CEO or attorney, or, it's shocking who criminals can be. I expose criminals. We go through situational awareness. I talk about intuition extensively because intuition is the highest form of intelligence.
Wow.
And so we go through intuition for a while, pre-attack body indicators, martial arts, defensive tools. And then we put it all into urban safety training, real world training. So I can take a soccer mom and teach her in an hour and she'll know exactly what to do. So fringe areas are where most crimes happen. So we really
what are
go
the fringe
through
areas. Define that a little bit.
Okay, fringe areas are in and out of your car. That's a huge place for an assault. Parking garages. That's the number one place for strangers to attack somebody or assault somebody. Parking lots. I'm sorry. Downtown, just like walking on the streets, restrooms, rest areas. So those are big fringe areas. It's kind of off the cuff. If you think about walking in a mall, it's not going to be in the mall, but it might be a hallway where you're going to a restroom or something like that. So that's where most crime happens. Because they want to commit the crime and then get away with it.
They want to get away with it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you were fearful your whole life, and fear of public speaking, I got that, but you meant just fearful. Just as a general person growing up, you just generally approached the world and you were sort of fearful. I imagine that may have been bullying, but were you ever a victim of another attempted crime, attempted assault, attempted mugging?
No. When I was 8 years old, my best friend's mother was murdered in the house behind our house. I grew up in a small town in North Dakota, and she begged for her life. And the boy, Ryan, was my best friend, and he told me about it. She begged for her life and she was shot in the head. This man went on to shoot 3 other people. And so back then, in the 80s, I got to see the bullet holes. I got to hear his story. So from the time I was 8 years old, I never felt safe in my home again. My parents didn't talk about it. Dinah was gone. She was dead. They never talked about, it was a high school teacher that knew her, that killed her. And so we never talked about it. So I was always afraid. I actually felt safer being outside. But 8 years old to have something like that happen was just very scary for me.
That's definitely going to stick. And so then what was your sort of trajectory in doing this whole, making sure that you had the key to not getting attacked? Like how did you go from that time with your daughters at the hockey game to where you are now?
Well, it was a long process, but so my background was I was a pediatric ICU nurse, a neonatal ICU nurse, and then a sedation nurse. I took a lot of children off of life support that were abused and killed. And we had, prepare their body, put them in the morgue. I sedated children that were raped. My youngest victim was a 2-year-old boy. Ugh. This has been brewing. I have seen so much crime. I have lived in big cities and been afraid for my life just getting to work because I lived in bad locations. So it's been brewing for a long time. Once that happened to me and my daughters were there, I said enough was enough. I started to research criminals, and I found out in the self-defense world, I found handguns and martial arts, but I knew there had to be something different. I'm always an out-of-the-box thinker. And so when I started to research body language and criminals and situational awareness, I knew that I could save lives. And so that was my why. And a lot of people thought I was crazy because I had 4 girls under the age of 9, no experience with websites or talking to people. I had a very comfortable life. Why would I do this? All I can say is that the universe really guided me into what I did and to start this company.
And then how did you start it? Like you just said, I'm just doing it? Like, what, did someone help you?
Well,
Did you have a mentor? Like, I know I'm an entrepreneur. I get it. Like, sometimes we just jump into things, but yeah.
Yeah, so my husband likes to say he's the how and then I'm the wow. So I came up with it was just I had so much information, but I didn't know how to do PowerPoint. So my husband helped me develop PowerPoint. And the marketing guy that I was working with at the time, he said, Beth, you're onto something huge. This is going to be huge. When everybody else laughed at me and made fun of me, they're like, this is stupid. There's already these companies out there. Why would you do this? So I started in a Scheels sporting store. I started with telling my friends to come to my class and then my family. And then it kind of grew. And then all of a sudden it became corporate. So I got this call and they said, hey, can you speak at our national convention?
Wow.
And they said, can you send your speaking agreement? And I'm like, sure. And I gave him I gave him a price. And, I used to make $20 an hour saving lives, like doing the worst possible thing. So then I gave him the price and it was a big number for me. And then I hung up the phone and I'm like, what the hell is a speaking engagement contract? So then I just Googled things and I like to fake it until you become it.
Yeah.
I've really had,
good.
I've really had to do that. And so,
that.
Just getting into the corporate world has been a long process, but it's been good. And I can't believe where I'm at today, but I think I'm at where I am today because of the videos I produce. Right. And my video team. And I think the number one way to influence people is through emotional storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. And so what better way to do that is than with video, like showing the wrong thing to do, but then showing the right thing to do. So you're never that person in that situation. And my videos went viral, and that's kind of what really launched me.
It's awesome.
I love it. Let me ask you a question. This just kind of came up just listening to you speak. Project yourself back to that hockey game, was it?
Yeah.
You're there now with everything that you know now, all the training you've had and all the experience you have and all the knowledge you have. That guy walks up to you now. What do you do?
I would stare him down. I would create distance from him, and I would say, back up. What do you want? And I would probably go for, a tool that I have on me.
And then at home, how do you protect yourself then? I mean, are you still worried when you're at home?
No, I'm not worried at home. And I'm not worried when I'm out either. I'm confident. I'm in a relaxed.
You're a badass. You're such a badass. I love it. Yeah.
I mean, I used to be nervous when I saw, guys in Hobby Lobby staring down my girls, and you can tell they're sex offenders and they're predators. And, now I know what to do. Now I know what look to give them. Now I'm very confident. At home, I'm not nervous. I just recommend always lock your doors. We have video cameras. Yeah, I'm definitely not nervous at home, but there's certain things that you can do to keep yourself safe when you're at home.
And you have videos for that, right, on your site that we can go watch?
I do not have anything for in your home, but I do have, I have all sorts of videos for driving, anti-carjacking. I have videos on how do you walk, in public, all the different fringe area videos. So
amazing. What's your look that you would give the Hobby Lobby predator? I want to see it. Scare us right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, basically, you're not going to furrow your brows and look ticked off. It's just a confident look, like I said. Not me, not today. Yeah.
Right.
Like inside your head,
stare them down.
Not today.
Stare them down.
Not my kids.
Yeah.
Not
stare them
today.
down. Yeah.
Not my kids ever.
Looking right in the camera. Am I scaring
you?
So there's Am I scaring you, Mark?
No. So I just, well, I won't get into it, but I had a very similar situation 2 days ago in a convenience store about somebody loitering by the door, and he had already paid, and he kind of stopped, and he was much bigger than me, much younger than me, and was kind of covered up. I couldn't really see a whole lot, but it was same exact thing. He was blocking the door, and I walked up and I looked right at him, and I greeted him, and I said, let me get the door for you, because I didn't want to walk out behind him, that's for sure. And I let him go out, and I kind of just stayed in there for a second just to see what he was going to do next. So anyway, I could not agree more.
Smart.
So
yeah, very smart.
The phrase de-escalate, it doesn't sound like there's a way to de-escalate. There's a way to put a stop to potential what's happening. But I don't think you could ever have a conversation that's not a forceful conversation in those situations, right? There isn't what can I do for you? It's stop. What do you want, right? So that's right. A message I want to make sure people hear.
Right. And also, you don't want to de-escalate with somebody that is angry, somebody that's on drugs. they're not using their
Right.
rational mind. They're using their reptilian brain, right? And so if they're arguing with you and they're like, hey, give me your money, you're not going to say, you know, hey, calm down. They're just ticked, because just know that when you're going from arguing with somebody and they go to complete silence, it knows it's right before they're going to hit you or do something to you. It's before, yeah. So
Right before they go to silence.
yeah,
That's
if they go,
interesting.
yeah.
That's a great.
And so that's why
takeaway.
you stay away from those people. You use a car as a barrier. If you can't cross the street, if you can't get into a store with other people in there, use a car. Run around that car, as long as you can, to keep that between you and that person, right? Until you can get help. Because a lot of these cities, they don't have the police presence that they used to have.
Right.
And they don't
Wow.
have a lot of people that are on the streets. I mean, Portland is a nightmare. A lot of these stores are closed down, but these people still have to go back to work. They have to get back to work.
Yeah, no, it's happening in Philadelphia too.
Philadelphia is terrible, yeah.
Yeah, it's happening everywhere. New York, everywhere. Yeah,
Baltimore, you name
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I asked that question because people say fight or flight, but I've also heard fight, flight, faint, or fawn. And the fawn sounds like it's you're trying to reason with somebody, like, it's cool, like, just back off, like, leave me alone or whatever. Versus back up, not today. You don't want any of this, right?
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah,
more,
that's
the
a
more
little-
the fight.
Yeah.
Let me shift back. Wait, can I shift back to the
Yeah,
company?
yeah,
real
you
quick?
go.
So, as an entrepreneur, we'll go back to you, the businesswoman. What advice do you have? Stacey's an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. What advice do you have for people that the good, the bad, and the ugly of your business, of the business side?
Oh, wow. How many times did I quit? Almost quit Pretty Loaded.
Amen. Right?
Oh, so many. Yes. I would say, if I wasn't an avid reader, I would have never gotten to where I'm at today. All the books that I read on starting a business, on your why. I believe so deeply in my why. I'm saving lives from violence and from crime. And I would say just stay at it. There's that whole thing, 4 feet from gold, right? You don't ever, so many people are almost there. They're almost breaking through, and then they just give up and they quit. So you have to have a very, very strong why. The website stuff, the marketing stuff, that's the stuff that breaks me. but hire that out if you can, right?
Right.
But your why has to be the most important thing, and you have to be passionate. And now I'm getting busy enough where I'm just doing the things that I love to do. Like, I love creating video.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing. And then I just have other people do some of my webinars or some things that I don't necessarily want to do anymore.
Have you had a story? So you must have helped so many people along the way so far. Like, I'm not sure how long you've been doing this, but have you heard from people that said, oh, your methods and your techniques, like, thank God I knew about that because I stopped something from happening. Is there a story you can tell us?
Oh, tons of stories. But the biggest one is the interview on the street, right? A stranger stops someone and says, hey, can you give me the time? And because I have taught them, this is the interview, this is the test, this is right before they steal from you. Don't answer their question.
Just walk away.
I can't help you. And you keep moving. You move off to the left. You don't help these people. It's a test, right? And criminals admit to doing this.
Now, are they trying to stop you from walking? Or is that they don't? They're trying to see how you answer the question. What is the test?
To distract you, number one, so they can steal, or give you a brochure to distract you so they can steal, or to see if you're compliant or not. If you're that kind of person who's like, oh yeah, I'll give you the time. I'm going to look down at my watch now, and you're the kind of person that they're going to rob from.
Whoa.
Right.
I always give the time.
Don't give the time.
I got to stop giving the time.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Who doesn't have a phone on them nowadays? Is it a little old lady or a little old man? That's different.
Yeah.
But don't fall for those things. Walking out of stores, a lot of girls have been followed, and they said because of my training, they knew to go just turn around and go back in and ask for a man to walk them out to their car. A lot of that.
Stinks we have to ask for men to walk us out.
I can't ask another woman, I guess. You could just
ask another woman,
a strong lady or whoever. Yeah.
And honestly, just walking with another person when you're in public makes you less of a target. So if you're trying to get to work, but you don't have anybody to walk with, I always say, look, profile people. So I teach people to profile, not on race or gender, but on how somebody's acting. So, you can profile people and see other people that are just trying to get to work. and just say, hey, do you mind if I walk with your group? Because then you're just less of a target than if you're all alone.
That is awesome advice. Oh my gosh, I could
It's
talk
fascinating.
this forever.
This whole thing is fascinating.
I know.
Because it really is just open your eyes.
Yeah.
Right? The most fundamental advice you can give to somebody to keep them safe, personally safe, is just pay attention.
It is.
Right? That's 80% of your challenges and potential victimization is just open your eyes, look around. If you're getting gas, don't just lean against your car and stare at your phone.
No, get in your car. Once you start gassing up, get in your car, lock the door. Gas stations are a huge fringe area. You don't want to be stuck at the pump. That's when they come up to you and they ask for money or, and pay at the pump. Don't go into the gas station if you can help it. A lot of transient people then are following you back to your car. Now they have your car. Now they can take your car. As you know, carjackings are up all over the country.
Yeah.
So we always say, be a low target, be a gray man, gray woman, stay low, pay at the pump, get in your car, lock it, and then go. Pick up your other stuff at a grocery store. It's a much safer spot.
Yeah, or get delivery like I love to do now. So wait, so how can you be a gray person? Like what? Like if you're like a fun, like you like big colors. Like we just interviewed Joy Villa. She wears orange and fuchsia, and there's nothing gray about this person. Although I don't think that anyone would confront her because she's what I mean. She's confident, right?
Confident.
So you say be a gray person. What is that exactly?
So that's when you're walking in a big city and you're walking on the streets. You need to blend into your surroundings. So walk like the locals do, right? If you're in a new city, in New York, they're walking really fast. You're not wearing your Rolex. You're not wearing your Louis Vuitton purse because you're probably going to get robbed. You want to be in the middle of the crowd. The outskirts of the crowd are the fringe areas. That's where most of the crimes happen. That's where the pickpockets happen. The other side is the street. So you just want to blend in and you just want to look around and you want to be confident.
Yeah, I remember I remember being in New York City and just, just like the way that you stand and how you walk, like you just had to, when people come to visit me and they'd like bring their purses, I'm like, no, put your purse away. No, we just have to walk, follow me, do what I do. Yeah. That's such great advice.
What about?
Go ahead.
No,
we have so many questions. Sorry, we're like talking over each other.
Yeah, and you're not walking and like looking at your phone, right?
No.
I mean, how many times do you see that?
Plus, that's dangerous. You could walk into a manhole. You know what I mean? You can't be walking with your phone. Like everybody, come on, people, don't do it.
That's funny. So, what about for kids? So, all the things we're talking about are grown-ups and driving cars, getting gas.
Right.
What about for kids? Let's say a 14-year-old or an 11-year-old, maybe somebody in middle school. What advice are we giving them? I know it's probably the same at some level, pay attention, but is there unique or dedicated advice for the younger set?
Yeah, it really falls on the parents to teach their children, walking to and from school. I have a whole video on that. Don't ever get in a car with a stranger. And strangers aren't necessarily unattractive people. Strangers aren't men. They can be women stealing children, just staying away from those people. So I have a whole video on that. Also just getting lost for little kids. When you have little kids, you have to watch them like a hawk. You definitely have to keep your eyes on them the whole time. You have to have a safety plan. If they get lost from you, you tell them, okay, if we get lost, you go to the fish tank or you go to a mom that has a baby. And then tell them that you're lost. So there's all different plans for children.
But wait, if someone takes you, I remember back in the day, you're supposed to tell your kid to yell fire, not this person's taking me and this person's not my dad, but like fire, because people pay more attention. Is that still the thing?
I taught my son to scream, "You're not my dad, you're not my dad," and kick him in the
yes.
Then they do it to you.
That's what I told him to do.
When they're mad at you. I've had that happen. You're not my mom. I'm like, I am too.
Yeah. Fire is a good one, but you're not my dad, or this is not my dad, this is not my mom. A lot of times, because if they're just kicking and fighting back against this person, people think they're just a little brat being taken outside to get a spanking or something. So yeah, you're not my dad, you're not my mom is a good one.
Can I tell you, we're talking about a topic that I am deeply down the rabbit hole of protecting kids from being taken. I could have taken 3 kids in the last year and a half.
What do you mean?
I kid you not. One was in a Joanne fabric. I had to go in there because my son had some school project that was due tomorrow, one of those. And I walked in and it was the middle of a day. There were maybe 3 adults in the place, in the entire, it's a big store. and there was a kid, probably 4 years old, sitting on the floor playing with pillows. I walked up and down the adjacent aisles, the other adjacent aisles. I saw no one. So I went and I stood next to that kid, just looking, and I looked at my watch. I was standing there 3.5 minutes before another adult showed up, the mother showed up. She was nowhere to be found. I had the same thing happen
Terrible.
in Boscov's, where, clothing racks, clothing racks in a department store. You can get lost in a heartbeat in a clothing rack. This kid was running all around. He ran by me. I looked up, not a parent in sight. They were that way, 2 aisles over at the toy section. Had no idea their child left.
Wow.
I could have taken that child. It sickens me that people don't pay attention to where their kids are. I was eyes on
these are
100%
probably
of the time.
families that have like 6, 7 kids that it's at the end of the day. I know it's not an excuse, but I'm saying people get tired. I don't want to shame them, but yes.
I do. I want to shame them.
Stop shaming.
Yeah.
I do.
Boy,
I do.
I mean, and until it happens to you, man, you can't undo that.
That
And
is
that
the
regret,
truth.
regret that those people have. Oh, yeah, I would never go there. I'm the kind I'm even watching my girls that are 12, watching them go into the restrooms.
Yeah.
14-year-old, my son,
Yes.
same thing. To this day, I still watch him walk into a public. We were in Universal. I didn't mean to cut you off. Universal,
You're into
one of the
this.
safest places, right? In June, it was the first time I didn't walk in with him. At 14 years old, he's bigger than me. He's faster than me. I still walked in, but I didn't walk in that time. But boy, I was uncomfortable and staring at that door the entire time. I don't understand why more people aren't built that way for their kids. I think they're just rose-colored glasses about the world.
They don't realize, and it's just like everyone who's on their phone constantly walking around.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You don't realize that people are looking for you to do that so they can come in and,
Exactly.
Getcha.
That's why everybody needs you.
Yes.
They need to
So
hear
wait, so
your
let's talk
messaging.
about what's next for you. I know we have to wrap up soon, but what's next for you and where are you going and what do you want to do with this business? And, let's talk about the next steps.
Yeah. So, we're really growing. And last year we went into the holidays training because people need this training, unfortunately. And I'm busy again. I'm booked out until February. So I'm just growing. I'm kind of a perfectionist. So I kind of like to do things on my own, but I do have affiliates around the country that are amazing, that are out there, spreading this word and presenting for me. I'm going to be partnering with some big companies soon, so I can't talk about those yet.
Yay.
But my latest big partnership was Grubhub. So
Saw
I
that.
produced
Amazing.
Yeah.
Custom
videos. That was huge because when I first started, to get over all my self-limiting beliefs, and now I have, billion-dollar corporation clients. It's kind of exciting.
So what are they looking for? What's Grubhub call you for?
They're looking for their videos on gas station safety, right? So I made all custom videos for them. Driving, how do you drive safely? Anti-carjacking, going to and from the store, going to and from, where the customer's spot is. Just how to be a hard target. So we teach how to be a hard target. So you are not going to be chosen by a criminal.
Love
Nice. That's
so important.
Amazing. Can you just give us, before we hop off, it's the holiday season. So do you have a few hints for people on how to protect yourself during the holidays? It just seems a little more dicey, right? Because everyone's buying gifts and, what do you think?
Yeah, actually crime is really high in December over the holiday season. It's very high. So I wouldn't be walking with tons of bags in your hands, because then you don't have your hands available. But I would put your bags in your trunk of your car instead of in sight. Don't keep anything in sight. They have these special gloves they wear. They just push through your window, break the glass. They take everything that they want. So I would just make sure that you put your bags in your trunk. I would just be very careful. Just walk around. Know that malls are huge fringe areas. So don't just be a hard target when you're out. Just be confident. Walk confidently and be aware.
Love it.
Confidently be aware.
So
It seems so simple, but it's so hard for people. I love it.
I think it's because people just don't realize that they need to be confident and be aware. They're just lost in their own little
Have you
world.
written a book? You need to write a book.
You need to write it.
No,
I
I
really-
haven't. Actually,
yeah.
I've
Next steps.
actually thought about, I've thought about doing that as well.
So I know people can find you prettyloaded.org. Your YouTube channel is Pretty Loaded?
Pretty Loaded ND for North Dakota.
Pretty Loaded ND. Okay,
ND.
that's good
Yep.
to know.
Yep.
That's good to know. And everybody can find you on social as well, Instagram.
Right, Instagram, Facebook, and then YouTube. And then we have all sorts of free videos and free safety guides for children, urban safety guides, restroom safety guides, all on our website for free.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh. There's just so many more
Total
questions
game
I have.
changer.
I wish
know.
we had like
Total.
4 more hours.
We'll cut and we're going to keep
Beth.
talking.
That's like I have to
love
go, but Mark wants
Well,
to
thank
talk.
you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
coming and
Beth.
sharing all this information.
So much. And
with us and with
everybody,
our audience.
go follow prettyloaded.org.
Prettyloaded.org. It's a
Yeah.
good site.
Thank you
It's a
so
good
much,
site.
Mark and
Thank
Stacey.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Be well.
Be safe.